The 1899 New York City newsboy strike was revolutionary because it proved that even the poorest, youngest workers could unite against the powerful newspaper owners. This event inspired later labor movements, helping to reform unfair working conditions. This thesis really connects to the main idea of unity and working together. For the Newsies, it wasn't just about the few extra cents per newspaper. It meant something more. It showed that everyone can stand up for themselves and has a voice in America. Kid Blink said, "I'm with you, and I'll stay with you till we win." This quote really shows how dedicated to the cause the Newsies really were. Together, they could accomplish anything. This problem started out at the start of the industrialization era. This was around 1880 to the early 1900s. Industrialization is the process by which an economy is transformed from a primary agricultural one to more of an economy based on manufacturing goods in big cities. The government had a hands-off economic policy during this time. This was known as laissez-faire. Because of this, as soon as big businesses take control of the industry, small businesses could not grow. The government would not do anything to stop it. This was known as a trust or a monopoly. Big businesses would lower their prices so consumers wouldn't buy from smaller ones, and they would be driven away. Then they shopped their prices even higher than before. Therefore, big businesses could practically do whatever they want. Horrible working conditions, bad quality of product, and super high prices. They saw their workers as disposable and expendable. If they died or got hurt, owners would not care. They were paid little to nothing and could start as young as 4 or 5. The only hope seemed to be the President Theodore Roosevelt, also known as the Trust Buster. He was fighting against these big businesses, inspired people, which probably started the initial strike. Businesses seemed unstoppable. They would do anything they wanted, and this caused bad working conditions that caused many deaths. One example of this was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. Since the building was poorly designed, with no fire escape and no proper precautions, a fire broke out because of the frantic and chaotic environment, and it spread across the building. It killed 146 people that day. Lives were lost due to carelessness and lack of proper safety precautions. It seemed like there was no hope, and no one was brave enough to stand up to the businesses, until a very young, brave group of kids were fed up with these working conditions and getting paid little to nothing, and they spoke out.
The start of the 1899 newsboy strike was the rising of newspaper costs due to the Spanish-American War ending. There are many people who sparked the rebellion, but one of the more important people who inspired the strike was Louis Belletti. Louis Belletti is an 18-year-old Italian kid who works in the newspaper industry as a worker. Another person who helped spark these strikes was Dave Simons. Dave Simons was an 18-year-old Jewish boxing champion who worked with Louis Belletti in the newspaper industry. Louis Belletti and Dave Simons worked together to start the strike. The newspaper owners used child labor and unsafe working conditions to make profits, causing a threat of the survival for the workers. Over 5,000 newspaper workers across New York City went on strike against these newspapers. These workers had dignity and were defiant so they can get their point across to these selfish owners. The workers believed that there should be more laws for safety regulations and get paid more due to the newspaper costing more. The newspaper workers started to strike and revolt against their newspaper owners. In the end, publishers like Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst agreed to buy back any unsold newspaper so the workers didn't lose any money and still kept the profit. The strike began with the newsboys in Long Island City, Queens, attacked the distribute wagon. Strikers stopped the selling of major newspapers, burned papers, and fought against scabs or adult agent hired to sell them. A large rally was held at New Irving Island Hall on July 24th to organize and maintain unity. After 2 weeks, the publishers did not lower the price of the papers, but they did agree to buy back any unsold papers, which substantially increased the newsboys' earnings. The 1899 newsboy strike in New York lasted around 2 weeks, causing a massive drop in sales for Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst. The daily copies before the newsboy strike was at 360,000 copies paid per day, but during the strike, only 125,000 copies were made per day, forcing them to buy any unsold papers. The strike spread to other cities like New Haven and Fall River, and it inspired similar youth-led labor actions across the United States. The strike caused significant disruption in New York City, with protests blocking distribution wagons and rallies, including a major meeting at New Irving Hall. The movement spread to other cities in the Northeast, including Jersey City, New Haven, Fall River, and Providence, Rhode Island. The strike brought nationwide attention to often harsh lives of working-class children in American cities. The 1899 newsboy strike in New York City demonstrated the power of collective action by children, paving their way for stricter child labor reforms and inspired similar protests nationwide. The strike highlighted the spoliation of children, loosening their borders, moving for child labor regulation, and eventually stronger labor laws. The success proved that organized young workers could win against and negotiate with powerful, wealthy corporations. The event serves as a landmark in labor history, later inspiring the 1992 Disney musical film Newsies and the subsequent Broadway show. The strike influenced future similar protests such as the 1909 newsboy strike in Hartford, Connecticut.
In conclusion, the 1899 New York City newsboy strike was revolutionary because it changed how workers were viewed in America. During a time when large businesses had most of the power and workers had very few rights, the newsboys proved that unity could lead to a change. Even though they were young and poor, they stood together and showed that anyone could speak up against unfair treatment. The strike was not only about the price of a newspaper. It took place during the industrialization era, when the government followed a laissez-faire policy and allowed big businesses to form monopolies. Because of this, many companies ignored workers' safety, paid extremely low wages, and used child labor. When workers were often treated as replaceable, and dangerous conditions led to many injuries and deaths. The newsboys challenged this system by refusing to accept unfair conditions and demanding respect. More than 5,000 newsboys across New York City joined the strike, forcing powerful publishers like Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst to respond. This was revolutionary because it proved that workers, even children, could successfully challenge wealthy business owners. By working together, the newsboys gained fairer treatment when publishers agreed to buy back unsold newspapers. Overall, the newsboys strike helped change the future of labor in America. It inspired later labor movements and helped spread the idea that workers deserved rights, safety, and fair pay. This event revolutionized labor by showing that unity and determination could stand up to injustice and lead to lasting change.